Welcome back to The Scroll with Samurai Success. I'm Ryan Hartley, and I am with Samurai Success CEO David Olcott. How are you, sir?
Good, sir. Always wonderful to see you and spend time with you, man.
Oh, I love it. Our community are really enjoying the content that we're putting out on The Scroll. So we're obviously doing these long form conversations, and people are receiving them through email on LinkedIn as well. It's really great to see people taking away the wisdom and the insights. And today is all about how to reprogram your subconscious mind for success. I have benefited from some wonderful conversations with you all around programming, and I'm really looking forward to distilling some of that wisdom, some practical wisdom for people to take away today. You up for that?
I'm up for that, sir. Let me make a comment about what you talked about the community. I'm absolutely thrilled that there are people that are willing to spend the time investing in themselves to listen to this information because it takes time. Everybody's busy, crazy. And that's part of the issue we're dealing with. We're not spending the time to invest in ourselves. So thank you for the bottom of my heart. Just listening to this stuff, right, can absolutely help. Actually applying it takes it to the next level. And that's what we really want to be able to talk about today is how do I get to that place of really applying this information? I know all this stuff, Dave, but how do I really get to apply it? And that's the great conversation we're about to have today. Dive in deeper than just the surface. So buckle up, people. We're ready to rumble.
I love the deeper meaning behind words. And for me, I've thought a lot about the word community a lot. And for me, it means to come together as one. And I
Mhm.
love the fact that we're giving people the opportunity to come together as a group of samurai. Like we're all on this path together. But maybe you can just articulate what it means to be like a new millennium samurai. I know that's something very powerful imagery that you give. Equip us with that sense of who we are when we come together as this community.
So when most people think of samurai, at least when I talk to them about them, like, hey, what's your impression of samurai? And they imagine, the great warriors, and truly magnificent at what they did, masters of the craft, completely disciplined and absolutely practicing every single moment they could for that life of mastery kind of things, because their lives depended on it. And they were retained by someone called a danshu kind of thing. So they had someone that they worked with, and that danshu decided the vision is. And so, interestingly enough, it's much like us working for other people, right? And being cooperative now, as opposed to that competitive feudal Japan, which of course didn't survive. So
Mm.
it's like, what's the new Millennium Samurai? The new Millennium Samurai, from our perspective, is taking those characteristics of being samurai and really understanding that being samurai means being in service of another. And
Mm.
early on in my career, my life, man, I ran into a beautiful man who taught me that one of the greatest lives you can live is truly being in service of another. And
Mm.
it just struck me, Ryan, as it does, and those things that just really resonate with you, just hold on to you kind of stuff, won't let go kind of stuff. It's like destiny being there. So I was just fascinated with what would it mean to be truly in service of others in today's format. And I will tell you that's the difference between competition that most people are running their businesses with and cooperation. Now, listen, I understand. I'm a business person. I'm a small business owner. I've been doing this for a long time. I get these concepts that I'm about to talk about that says, but Dave, you're living in a competitive world. I agree with you. But if you've ever watched a great team with one person who's a superstar, and they absolutely are ranting and raving and being dramatic, and they're competing within their own team, it decimates that team. Just one individual can do that. Just one. 10,
Mm.
that's gone. It's forget about it. It's over tomorrow. But one individual can have that kind of impact. Same kind of thing can happen on the other side, where one individual truly being cooperative can truly change things. But you got to get the rest of the people involved in that conversation. So being this new samurai of this new age kind of thing is truly being in the service of others by understanding the simple principle. In order to truly be in the service of others, you've got to work on you.
Mm.
You've got to learn how to get the hell out of your own way so you can truly be in service. Because if you don't do that single principle, then all you're doing is waiting for your time to talk. Every conversation you're about to have, it's just like, yeah, whatever. Okay, yeah, I'm paying attention. Yeah, I'm active listening. I'm doing a checklist. Yeah, I've got my I'm journaling. I'm doing my this, and then boom, I go and this is what's happening. You can watch people have these conversations that are surface oriented.
Mm.
It's like a whole bunch of activity without accomplishment. Being a new age samurai, new millennium samurai, is looking beyond that, knowing there's something beyond it, and not just wanting to know it, but wanting to experience that.
Mm.
And that's what this is about.
What an invitation that you offer us to journey together as new millennium samurais. I love it. And I think what you've just said takes us exactly on to where we're headed with today's topic, which is about reprogramming subconscious for success. And I guess we'll break that down to its simplicity. What do we mean by the term programming?
So, in order to get to that answer, let's talk about how we came to this understanding about this programming, and then we'll talk more about what it is, why it is, how it works.
Yeah, come on.
So, when I started taking a look at the universe, I was like, there's some perfection going on here that I'm not recognizing. And how I knew that is because I knew a loving God would not put me here without some kind of structure,
Mm.
right? There was things in place that I obviously wasn't seeing because my life, it seemed on the surface that was going gangbusters, women, money, wealth, access to, and I was miserable. I was like, what is happening? Much like the character of Tom in the Swords of Illumination. I was that Tom. I was so frustrated with life and understanding that. Oh, yes, thank you. So I was like, there's got to be something better. I'm going to use my talents this lifetime to go figure this stuff out. And that's what I dedicated my life to. It's like, how does this place work? There are three clear dimensions that I started working from, like the universe, this physical plane, and then human beings. And how do each one of those interact, or do they interact? How do they respond? How do they influence each other? How do they manage? How do they control each other? What's happening here? And as I sorted through all that pile of stuff, thousands of books, going to I can't tell you how many seminars, and looking to be able to figure, and it finally hit me that there was something going on within the individual that actually influences, manages, and by design controls this external world. So, holy crap, the masters have been saying this the whole time. If you want something out here to change, you got to go inside here and change it. Now, that was a cliche to me, Ryan. I didn't get it, but now that I see the mechanics of it, I see the structure of it, I see the magnificence of it, I see that how our lives are. And by the way, if you're listening to this, your life, whether you like it or not, is by design. Now, for a lot of us, that's hard news to hear. But I want to tell you, if you're really a true samurai and a true seeker, then that's some of the most wonderful news you've ever heard, because you now have responsibility. You now have control over something that maybe you didn't think you had control over. And that's your ability to shift that. Well, what is that? That's what we're going to talk about today, which is called programming. That programming is actually stored in a part of your brain. And neuroscience teaches us that the ability to do something really amazing as human beings, we have this ability to take nothing, an idea, and turn it into something physical. And that process is called manifestation. Taking an idea and then just purely making and pulling it into the physical realm from somewhere that already exists in this place. Sometimes we call it imagination, and we do all kinds of things with it. But neuroscience taught us that of our ability to manifest things, two parts of our brain, the conscious part of our brain, the part we're having a conversation about right now, and the subconscious part of our brain, or sometimes called the unconscious. What's fascinating about this is when you take a look at the mechanics of it, 95% of the things that you're manifesting, I'm manifesting in my life, come from, dun, 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 drum roll please, the subconscious part of your brain. What? Wait a minute. Now and then I started studying that, and I started realizing, holy crap, I had all this great verbiage, I had all these great incantations, I had all this stuff that I was doing, and it wasn't manifesting things that I wanted to do. It was actually manifesting a lot of the opposite. I was like, what is happening here? What am I fighting against? And of course, I went through my thing where I was fighting God, and I was very angry with God, and I was fighting other people, and I was very angry with other people. And then finally you get just worn out, and you just stop tolerating that crap, and you just realize, holy crap, the single person that's in every single one of those events is me. Who am I mad with? I'm mad with me because I know I have this amazing talent. I know I have this amazing abilities and stuff like this, and I'm not doing what I want to do with them. How do I shift that? That shift is this programming, the subconscious part of your program. And getting access to that is what we're talking about today. And actually developing a process about how to shift and change that so that 95%, even when you're sleeping, it's manifesting or attracting things that you truly desire in your life, as opposed to what you don't want in your life. So that, in the heart and soul of all this conversation, is the ultimate change element as we know it today.
What an opportunity again you're presenting us with. And I guess help us make the correlation then between programming and success, or maybe sabotaging success.
So as I've gone down this rabbit hole and been with it almost 30 years now, the evolution of it just it, and by the way, the structure hasn't changed. I've changed to see the structure, right? And that was the fascinating part. It's like, oh, it's not really formally filled. Yes, it's working perfectly. So this subconscious part of your brain is working perfectly. The only question that you have to ask is, am I enjoying what I'm getting from that subconscious programming? If
Yeah.
you are, stay with it. It's working perfectly. You are working by design.
Mm.
But if there's some areas that you're not, or a whole bunch of your life that isn't, then that's the place you're going to have to choose to get to make the biggest impact. Because everybody's always asking, this 80-20 rule, what's the thing that says 20% of what I'm doing is producing 80% of the outcomes? I'm now sharing with you, maybe for the first time in your life, maybe you've heard this before and haven't done anything with it. It's time to do something with this, because the 80% that you're getting out of your life, if not 95%, is by this singular event. Changing that changes everything. Now, that's a startling level of control and responsibility. I get it. But that's the opportunity the universe has given to us and the technology we actually have and had from the beginning of our lives. You are working perfectly by design. So let's talk about its structure. So when we're putting in the Swords of Illumination, we actually break down the elements of this programming, right? In the first book, you're introduced to 6 swords, and those swords are the elements of this programming. And that's what I've been finding. What are these pieces and puzzles, and how does it all fit together, and what's the sequencing of it? So those elements are what actually helps us to change the programming. So this gives you a format, a manual for being able to reprogram your subconscious brain. All right, now we're talking. So the very first thing to understand, and to give you a real clear metaphor how powerful this is the very first sword in the Swords of Illumination is the sword of identity. It's designed there on purpose. It's first and foremost because that's what the universe told me, that this is the most important belief system you have. What I didn't know is that one of the most fundamental things about the principle, this physical plane, is that we're not here to discover who we are. We're actually here to create who we are. Now, the choice that we have right now in this very moment is that choice has already been made for you, whether you've chosen what other people have said about you, or you're going to choose what you say about you. And that's what the Sophie work, Swords of Illumination system and group coaching is about giving you that choice back, giving you the process back, as opposed to listening to other people about who you are. Because once you decide, whichever source that comes from, other people or from yourself, that identity drives your life. I know I'm being dramatic. I'm being dramatic on purpose because I really want you to hear me, maybe for the first time, or maybe you haven't heard it enough in this passionate way to be able to go, holy crap, like I did. Because when I first heard this, I went into a cave for 30 days. I was like, what the hell just happened? So I hope I'm being passionate enough for you to hear how important this is. Give you an example. If I say that I am a half glass empty person, or if I say that I'm a half glass full person, oh, thanks for the glass reference, that if whichever identity I choose for myself, I then filter every life experience I'm going to have from that identity lens or perspective. Everything. It's not going away. Once I choose my identity, and who I've chosen that from friends, well-meaning people, the church, society. If I've chosen that identity for me, is I've taken that off and they told me I'm a half glass empty person, I accept that and choose that, then I'm going to view the world all through that lens. If I choose something differently, I'm choosing to be a half glass full person. Everything that comes in my life, I'm going to, and by the way, Just that single lens of identity creates two different propensities toward experience. They're not going to match up. They're never going to meet, because I am driven by half glass empty, half glass full, and that's my perception and perspective of the world, all
Mm.
created by my identity. That's how powerful this is. So chapter 1, basically, I know it's chapter 4, but chapter 1 in the book, it just starts off with, you really want to get to this? Here it is. I hope that makes sense.
Yes. Well, I'm fortunate enough to have had many conversations with you where I've been able to play out some of these, and you're like, right, let's map that back. Let's map that. Where does the. So I've been fortunate that you've been my mirror, shall we say, in playing back to me, where revealing to me maybe where my subconscious is. And I guess that's something I hope for everybody listening, is that they have a method of being able to reveal their subconscious to them. They might be able to now, with your awareness, see in their life where they've seen the downstream printout of that programming. As you've just said, here's the printout of your life. But what made me think is when you were talking about half full, half empty. Well, that, Dave, suggests that I have multiple destinies that are possible.
Mm.
Like, what's your perspective on destiny, free will? Like,
Going back to the structure again, this is what's so fun about this, is once you understand the foundation of this, everything then moves like in a conveyor belt from that place. So the structure that we're talking about, programming, right, is about what's designing your life for you. Now, as we're having this very conscious conversation, that's not affecting my programming. That's the challenge, because in most of our business, and most of the seminar business, book business, movie business, any coaching business, is that most about what talk therapy is going to change your programming. This is inaccurate. Matter of fact, we're really clear that there's 4 predominant ways to be able to change your programming, but talking to people isn't one of those. We'll
hmm,
get to those 4 things a little bit later. But this idea is that once I've said that who I am, there's this thing that we then move into, which is the physical realm and all of its laws and rules and things like this. But then it starts to communicate with the universe. And this is something known as the attractor factor. So imagine in the universe, there is this space. It's called the realm of pure potentiality. It's actually a quantum mechanics term, that all possibilities, all destinies, every possibility of something you could imagine about who you are exist in that realm. You being president of the United States exists in that realm. You being homeless in this physical plane exists in that realm. And even though it exists, does not mean that you're going to experience that which exists. So that's a fascinating way. Is like, hey, it does exist, but it may not be my choice to experience that. Well, where does that choice come from? That choice is actually your subconscious programming, not your conscious part of your brain. What? I hope I have your attention now, because this is how it hit me. Is like, well, Dave, I'm making, choices every single day. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but it was all conscious, Ryan.
hmm,
I wasn't paying attention to how my subconscious was manifesting things. And all I had to do is slow down and be quiet. And I had to check 2 things: my bank account and my calendar. That's all I really had to do. When I checked my bank account, I was like, that's what my subconscious is programming.
hmm,
Am I hell no, I'm not happy with that. Well, okay, let's take a look at time, right? Money, time. Let's go take a look at my calendar. I am not spending time where I want to be spending. I'm working perfectly by design. I'm
hmm.
choosing that. But no, I'm not choosing that. Yes, you are, David. You're choosing it unconsciously. And I tell you, Ryan, that really took me a while to get my brain around,
Yeah.
because my ego was like, no, 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 you're fine. You're doing good. Because the ego is in charge of this programming, by the way, just so you know. And it wants to hold on to power.
Hmm,
We're asking to invite into something else that says, instead of my ego using me, I want to use my ego. I want to use my body. I want to use my mind. I want to use my soul. I know I'm not allowed to say that, but this is what I want to be able to do while I'm here, because as long as I'm in charge of those, I'm in charge of my behaviors. I'm in charge of my character development. I'm in charge of things. And I really like to be in charge. So I can be in charge of me, nobody else. And that's what's really getting to this place of understanding is it's my subconscious creating the things in my bank accounts, the subconscious creating my things in my timing. And if I don't like those feedback loops, I've got to be willing to change my subconscious. This is how powerful this is. Imagine your belief system being a thermostat on the wall. So I have a Nest over there, right? Kind of thing, so I can program it when I'm traveling, those kind of things. So that thermostat, your beliefs and values that go along with this program, it's the main engine of everything. And once I set that thermostat, let's say to 70 degrees, then the machine, the mechanics, the programming of that thermostat has two connections. It connects with an AC source, a cooling source, and a heating source, a boiler, right? Or a heater. So that thermostat connects to two different operating devices, but it's in control. Be clear. None of those two things wake up without that thermostat. The thermostat gets shut off, these two things don't work. So there's this alliance that it has. Okay, great. Let's use that. I've now set that thermostat at 70 degrees. Its job, if it starts to heat up and all of a sudden it starts getting to 80 degrees, all of a sudden that thermostat goes, hey, something's not matching up with my programming. It's not aligning with it. It's not congruent with it. And since it's at 80, I need to bring it back to 70. So from hot, I need to cool things off and I have to bring it back to 70. So the cooling system kicks on. It does this automatically. I don't have to think about it. The thermostat doesn't. It just goes boom, and it fixes it automatically, subconsciously. If things get too cold, all of a sudden from 70 drops down to 60, well, then its job is to heat things up. And have you noticed something about in your life where all of a sudden things are going really, really well, and all of a sudden things aren't going so really well, and all of a sudden things are, this is the heating and cooling system within your own behavioral psychology. This is also known what psychologists and coaching is called self-sabotage. Because if you take that same 70 degrees and you say, now let's make that dollars. Now I've got this programming in my head that says I'm allowed to make $70,000 a year. And all of a sudden I start making 80. Guess what? The heat goes, no, we don't need to kick things on. We need to cool things off. Whoa, you're making too much because it's not aligning with my programming. So all of a sudden the external world is being monitored and facilitated by my internal world. I'm causing that opportunity to dry up because I'm not believing that I'm worthy of that. Because my thermostat is set at 70,000. I'm now making 120,000. I am going to self-sabotage like crazy. If I'm not making 70,000, but I'm making 60,000, I was like, hey, I need to be making more. I'm on fire. I'm making the things work. I'm heated up, man. I'm going. And there's that cooling heating system. So if you recognize in yourself, you now know how programming works within your world. And if you're not noticing it, take a moment and spend some time. I promise you, just do a little bit of research on your own history. You'll find where you're actually heated up, cooling off, and that sabotage that goes along with it. Until you change that thermostat, there will be no getting away from your destiny. Your destiny will be making 70,000. In mathematical terms, it's called a regression to the mean. Sports people, entertainers, everybody on this planet, you have all these examples because if you see somebody play basketball or baseball, and all of a sudden their average, their regression to the mean is 250. And all of a sudden they start hitting 350. They'll go on a tear. They'll hitting 350, but remember their regression to the mean is 250. That's their programming, unconscious as it is. All of a sudden, for a period of time, in order to get 350 down to 250, I've got to hit 125. Because it's all going to, and by the way, your programming is controlling all of this.
Wow.
Do you really want to take control of your life? This is a way to do that.
Interesting, isn't it? Because the world is filled with strategies, opinions, tips, and why might not be the wisest path to, if we want new results, new behaviors, we'll need to support those results. But why is it not just the behaviors and the strategies that will create my success?
So it's interesting because in this field that I'm part of, we promise all this stuff. You say, hey, you do this, you do this. And by the way, most of the coaches are teaching, and I did for the first 10 years of my life till I realized it doesn't really work, is that teaching you a strategy is giving you a fish. And I will tell you, one of the great masters of this physical plane has told us very clearly, teach people how to fish, not giving them fish. Because it violates the natural law of the purpose of this physical plane and why our soul is here is to have an experience of that. So if you just keep giving me a fish, I just have an experience of you giving me a fish. I'm not self-reliant. I don't know how to be able to do these things. And I become codependent on that. And that's most of the coaching system that's out there today. By the way, I believe they're well-meaning. I don't think they're nefarious, but it just doesn't get us to a society where we want to get to. Where I understand we want to be able to get to is that we want to be self-reliant. We want to be able to be self-evident of our own experiences. Because I will tell you that if I don't have a personal self-experience of something, I'm really skeptical about it. Right? I was like, oh no, I haven't experienced, and I need to have that. So great, let's go have those experiences. So that's the powerful element of being able to really focus on this programming and how it will make the shift to the areas that you really want to be successful in.
Yeah, one of the most popular shorts on the YouTube channel is one where you're talking about Elon Musk, and I think it's really resonated with people because it's this idea that you can't just go and copy and do what he does and expect the same level of results. And I guess the clue in what we're talking about is because we don't have his programming and the inner workings that that man has.
Yeah, and then that's what's so important about these personal experiences, that if the strategy I share with you, giving you that fish, doesn't fit with your belief system about that, well, Dave, how can you have a belief system about something you've never practiced or done anything with or experienced before? You don't. So if I give you a strategy, then you've got to take all of your programming and all your fears and you got to put it into that strategy, right?
Mm.
So that's why it usually fails. Because people say, well, if you would just read more, and then you grab your book, you're like, okay, fine, I'll read more. And that energy, that frequency that you're putting into reading, and by the way, reading more is a behavior that makes you more successful, but not your attitude toward it. Because now you're feeding into the strategy, the behavior, your belief systems that I'm going to make that fail. I'm going to make sure that everybody else being successful on the planet, I'm going to make sure it fails. And you do, because your programming doesn't support it. It's the other conversation that people were saying, well, Dave, why in your business model do you guys actually do design work? I mean, well, I'll just take ChatGPT and we'll just create all these processes. And by the way, there are going to be millions of people out there that do that and spend billions of dollars on this. And I will guarantee you less than 5% of all that billion spent will ever go to anything purposeful. Because if something else creates the strategy for me, but I don't have the beliefs to support that behavior, I'm not going to do it over the long term. And over the long term is what creates consistency, congruency, and coherence. And coherence is the focal point of your attractor factor.
Mm.
By doing those things on your own, becoming self-reliant, doing the work, that's the important part of experience, because that changes you inside and your frequency then changes, which then attracts your new destiny. By just taking the fish, by just taking the strategy, by just taking the federal government, whatever it is, you're not putting yourself in a place of experience, or sometimes called pressure, to really change your character, your frequency, and your attractor factor.
Interesting times ahead. Lots of 5% of people that have got lucky, successfully lucky, selling their programs, while the 95% look around in confusion that they did the same thing and didn't get the same results. It's interesting time, I think, this work, particularly being around the way that you and Paul and the team communicate. There's a depth, there's a congruency, there's a frequency that I continue to get excited about people connecting with and hearing. So earlier you said there are 4 ways to reprogram the subconscious for success. David, what are those 4 ways?
So the 4 ways we're currently aware of to be able to change your subconscious programming. First one is called hypnosis. And that's a powerful tool to be able to, with a right practitioner, right? And by the way, not everybody's susceptible to hypnosis, but that's a powerful tool to be able to do that. Second part of that is something called NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. These are technologies actually developed by human beings, and Psych-K. These are also, and by the way, all of our coaches here are master certified in these technologies. So we understand that we're learning how to be able to use. And by the way, this is AI for humans. This is our AI, right? This is how we think. This is how we create perspective. This is how we create meaning. And NLP is a great way to study the mechanics of that structure. So it's fascinating. Third one is practice. We've talked about it a lot. And one of the things we incorporate here at Samurai Success a lot about is practice. So we introduce a behavior to you, you've never done it before, you don't have the belief system do it, and we just walk you through that practice. And all of a sudden it hits and it clicks for you, and you have your personal verified experience. Your brain automatically goes, oh, there's a faster way to do this. I'm buying in. So we're using neuroplasticity in your brain to be able to give it evidence of support that that behavior actually gets me my result. And then my belief system goes, yep, that's mine. And I start doing it. People who have never calendared before, never planned before, never done time management whatsoever, come to us and they start working this. And of course, they all struggle with it. It's all frustrating. We get it. But everything's difficult in the beginning. And then they have the breakthrough. And that breakthrough is like, it's theirs. We just need to get the hell out of their way, because you will never talk them out of that again. That one meeting that they missed, that really big contract that wasn't on their calendar, that's the kind of stuff that just drives us crazy. That goes, never again. I'm not going to do that. So those kind of key things around practice. Fourth one, which is interesting, Bruce Lipton actually talks a lot about this, called the honeymoon effect, or also being in love. So the fourth way to be able to change your subconscious programming is by being in love. It's a fascinating way, because, you know, whenever we meet with people, right, and we want to be mated with them, we change all kinds of stuff. You know, that you could see the silly behaviors we do, and all of a sudden that honeymoon effect goes away and our old programming kicks right back in. And that's where you meet the real person. So it's like, this person was so nice in this thing, or they were so nice, not nice, and whatever. And all of a sudden they changed. Now you're starting to see person out of the honeymoon effect. So it has a period of time that you can stay in it. What if you could stay in love longer? So what's the fifth way to do this? Because those are the four ways that we currently know. At Samurai Success, we took all four of those things we just talked about, and we created a new technology called the I Am Studio. Using your own voice, using your own downloaded verbiage from a different source than just your ego, and being able to program that's into your brain every single day. You actually come into studio and we take you through a year-long process. It's heavy duty. There's no doubt about this is some work, but the benefits are massive. And so you go into the studio and you actually read your language about who you say you want to become, all the key characteristics, and you start downloading or programming that into your subconscious mind. And then we start seeing the benefits and effects from that. And we record those things with you. We start showing you that this is working, this isn't working. And then we make some shifts within the language of the verbiage, and we come back into the studio. And it's a fun process, because in the midst of all this, you're starting to see how you're actually designing your life and how you could design your life. That's when the power really comes in.
Yeah, it's I've had the joy of speaking with William Travis Stephens and Loka Pandya, who both you will see on our YouTube channel under the testimonial section. So I would highly encourage you, after you watch this, to go and check out those two testimonials in particular, because William Travis and Loka have been through the I Am Studio. And like, don't take David's word for it. Don't take my word for it. Go and hear from the people who have gone from it. Like, man, there was some tears involved in these testimonials. It's transformational with a capital T. It's a very, very powerful technology. What's your invitation to people, David, that are really seriously committed to this path and are really resonating with what you're saying? What's your invitation? What do we have available here at Samurai Success for people to journey with?
So interesting, this month we're actually launching Swords of Illumination group coaching, right? This is the first time we've ever done this. We've only done this with individuals, and not a lot of individuals have actually gone through the process, because we wanted to be really clear that it really worked. So now that we've had these testimonials from very high-end people that have truly transformed, so I wanted something true transformational, not just talk and promise and marketing, something real results driven. So now that we have that, we're offering this group coaching, because not everybody can afford the individual coaching. We understand that. But the benefits are so massive that it's a year-long journey. It's like, well, I can't spend it. Really, you can't spend a year of your life to be able to truly transform it. Okay, I understand if that's really where you're located. But remember, a year later from now, you're going to be still in the same place, because you haven't changed your programming. Now, I know I'm getting a little pitchy here in sales, but I will tell you, if you're really serious about making change in your life, and if you don't change the programming, I don't care what you do, all that work that you're doing will be self-sabotaged. You can go to the gym and you can work out for 12 months, dedicated, boom, bam. But if that programming hasn't changed, but isn't practice changing that? Okay, really important thing about practice. Practice makes permanent, not practice makes perfect. So if you're practicing something really poorly over and over again, guess what? You're practicing a poor behavior that's not going to get your results you're after. And as soon as something happens where you're like, I'm done with this, you'll stop that practice, you'll stop the programming, and you'll revert back to your old programming. So changing this programming is essential to where we're going. And that's why we're doing this now in a group dynamic starting this month.
It's exciting stuff. I'm really, really excited for the people that are going to be journeying through that. Um, David, some fascinating insights. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for distilling what could possibly be a very complicated topic into very simple and understandable. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with as a word of encouragement or a final thought on how to reprogram our subconscious minds for success?
So today we talked a little about programming and the power of that. So I really hope that you hear from this. This is actually great news because you're actually living a life by design. If you don't like what you're doing, the redesign, the reprogramming is possible. That's the great news about this. You are actually in control of that. You just have to be willing to take the next steps to be able to understand how that training works. And we can offer that to you.
Love it, David. Thank you. Samurai Success community, thank you for making it to the very end. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and please don't keep this to yourself. Share this with someone who you wish to inspire, equip, encourage, and yeah, we'll continue to grow as a community. David, thank you, brother.
Thank you, Ryan. Great seeing you.